Israel has tightened its chokehold on Rafah, raising fears of a full-blown ground offensive despite calls from America and other allies, including Britain, for restraint. Now, this comes hours after Hamas terrorists announced that they had accepted a peace deal which sparked cheers of joy in the bomb-lit city, but that joy was short-lived because Israel dismissed the deal brokered by Qatar and Egypt as a ruse, and hours later, IDF Merkava tanks were rolling south of the city and, in Israel's words, seizing operational control of the vital Rafah border crossing that links the southern city of Rafah in the Gaza Strip to neighbouring Egypt. Rafah is, to all intents and purposes, the last city in Gaza that is effectively under Hamas control. It is also the city where over 1 million refugees have taken shelter, having fled their homes elsewhere in the Gaza Strip over the last 7 months. You may remember as Israel, launched its offensive on Gaza City, the largest city, its troops ordered civilians to flee southwards, and many of them made their way to Rafah and have been there ever since, some living in appalling conditions. The United Nations has raised repeated warnings about the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in the Gaza Strip, and those concerns have been echoed by the United States and the United Kingdom. Today, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's spokesman repeating British calls on Israel to let more humanitarian aid in. Last week, we heard from Britain's Defence Secretary Grant Shapps, who said he wanted to see Gaza flooded with aid. Today, the US State Department has said it believes a hostage deal is in the best interests of the Israeli people and the best interests of the Palestinian people, because it said that would lead to a ceasefire and lead to conditions in which more humanitarian aid, could make it into Gaza. These are fraught times. Hopes of a deal are dying, but perhaps not quite dead. It may be that Israel's latest maneuver with its tanks is an attempt to put more political pressure on Hamas terrorists to accept Israel's proposed peace deal. There are 2 peace deals in circulation, and Israel saying that the latest offer, the one brokered by Egypt, by Qatar, and of course with support and visits from the CIA Director William Burns during that negotiating process, Israel saying that deal is a ruse, that it doesn't meet its red lines, its core needs. Israel had previously made its own offer to Hamas, and Hamas had not responded, had not accepted that deal.
עד ציר פילדלפי, תראו איזה יופי, דגל ישראל.
There are two goals of war. One is releasing all the hostages, and the other is destroying Hamas as a governmental and military entity. And to destroy Hamas, we must go into Rafah, take over this whole area, reach the leadership of Hamas, reach all the hostages, because there is no scenario where Hamas is going to release all of them. So it will need to be done militarily. But we understand that trying to release hostages in a military operation, it's complicated, it's dangerous. So if we have a chance to temporary agreement of ceasefire, 40 days, and release a big part of the hostages who are alive, because we know that only maybe half of the hostages are alive, then Israel is willing to have a ceasefire for months or a bit more, and then renew the attack, the ground incursion, because without that, Israel is going to lose the war. There is no scenario where Israel can afford losing a war against Hamas. Generally speaking, when you do a very large ground incursion, there is two phases. One is conquering the area, taking over the area, destroying the main military capabilities, the brigade, the battalions, command and control, and so on. So Israel has reached that in the northern part of Gaza, in most of the central part, in Khan Yunis in the south, and basically Rafah is the last stronghold.